All right, guys, welcome back to another video. It's your man Jay. Today we're going to talk about some reasons why you probably should consider getting the Corvette E-Ray. Now, I know you have the pick of the litter of all the Corvettes that you could possibly get in your lineup if you're in the market for a C8 Corvette. But if you're in the market just for a Corvette and you're just really ready for one that just stands out, there's no question that it's the E-Ray. So I got a small list of things that I feel like these are some reasons why I like the E-Ray. And I'm not going to try to convince you that this is why you should buy it, but I'm just kind of pointing out some reasons why I think the E-Ray obviously stands out from the rest. And it is just one of the best Corvettes that they've ever made. Let's start with the obvious here. The first thing on the list is the performance. The performance of the E-Ray is everything that you hear online. Like, it's not so much a sales pitch anymore. Every E-Ray owner, and there's not a lot right now. That's the thing. There's not a lot of confirmations from people. There's just people online that either own a Z06 or own a different Corvette, and they're just kind of using the E-Ray for a day or two or a week and then giving it back. Those aren't really real to me. I don't take those too serious. I want to hear from actual owners, especially owners who came from other Corvettes. And there's several Z06 owners that have switched to the E-Ray for performance reasons. They were good, but they were like, I can drive this car at any time. The Z06, not so much. And then you're going to have Z06 owners that says, oh, you can drive the Z06 everywhere. And in reality, you really can't. And I'll get to that in my next point of a reason why you probably should consider it or why I considered it. But the E-Ray's performance is right there with the Z06. So, and the E-Ray has some advantages over the Z06 too when it comes to performance. Regardless of the fact that if people say it's faster than the Z06 in a quarter mile and it's faster than the Z06 to 0 to 60, all those things only mean so much after a while. It's going to come down to how you're using the car and, you know, what makes you happy about the car. And the performance on the E-Ray is just phenomenal. It's just almost, you know that all the wheels are turning to get you to where you're wanting to go. The overall experience is just really, really good. So the performance on this thing, yeah, okay, it's really fast, quarter mile, it's really fast, 0 to 60. But I think I feel the performance of this car when I'm driving it like around. Like if I need to pass somebody, I need to switch lanes, I need to do something. If I want to get out on the highway or freeway really quick, that is when the power is instantly there. And the performance of this thing, they have dialed it in. Now, on the topic of performance, you know, with the E-Ray, there's so many bonuses that come with that performance and that price. You get the carbon ceramic brakes. This is like one of the main things that you hear E-Ray owners say, because you have to pay for them in every other application on the Corvette. You know, they don't come, at least for the current generation. It's like the Z06 is the main competitor, I would say. And you have to add on the carbon ceramic brakes to get that ultimate performance. And a lot of Z06 owners don't do it. So the fact that the E-Ray comes in at less and it's standard with the carbon ceramic brakes, GM's reasoning for that is the extra 350 pounds on the front end for the front electric motors. So if you're looking for performance that is planted and just always there, you have the LT2, which is a tried and trusted 495 horsepower and 470 foot-pounds of torque, coupled with the 160 horsepower and 125 torque on the front from the electric motors. It's a win. It's a win for you. That is 655 horsepower and 595 foot-pounds of torque. So that is a lot. The torque wins races. And so that's why the E-Ray can get out there with the performance and move past the competition so quickly because it has 595 foot-pounds of torque. And pretty much all of that is getting to the ground because of my next reason that I really love this car, and it might be something you might think of, is the E all-wheel drive. That is why the E-Ray can put the power to the ground better than the other Corvettes in the lineup because it is all-wheel drive and it is always on. So some things about the E-Ray that people kind of miss, I think, when they're talking about it. They think about, it's almost like when I read online, people are just upset that the E-Ray is considered faster than the Z06 in the quarter mile. But it's just because of the all-wheel drive, folks. If the E-Ray didn't have that front motor, it's just a Stingray. Ultimately, I mean, they literally could have the same car and take away the front motor and call it a Grand Touring, and it would just be a Stingray with carbon ceramic brakes and a wide body and, you know, all the suspension upgrades. And that's what it would be. That electric motor, giving it the all-wheel drive all the time, is what really makes this car special to me. So you'll never lose the all-wheel drive function. The battery won't drop below 21% or 22%. It'll always be there. That reserve is always there, and you'll always have the functionality of all-wheel drive. Now, the power aspect of it, you know, you have what's called a Charge Plus button, and it's right down next to the Auto Stop Start button, which is the first, I believe, for a Corvette as well. Like, why they put that there, I don't know, but the start-stop functionality is there. And this is a performance vehicle, so the fact that they put the start-stop, kind of strange, but they did it anyway. I believe this is the first Corvette with the start-stop technology. You could correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, it has start-stop technology next to the Charge Plus button, but you can turn that off. It's not really a big deal to me. I drive in my mode, so it never turns on for me because, you know, I just have it set to where it's not going to come on in my mode. But if you have it in touring or you have the AC off, it's going to come on. So the all-wheel drive is one of the biggest perks of owning this car. Like, why wouldn't I want to have an all-wheel drive performance Corvette? Yeah, it is going to move out, folks. And it definitely does. Having the all-wheel drive at your disposal at any given time, even if you're down on charge, like it's not like my Tesla. So the Teslas, when they're lower on charge, they lose power. Like, they're not as fast. With the Corvette, that's just not the case. You'll always have the power at your disposal, period. And you have the ability to just hit the button, hit Charge Plus, drive for a few seconds, and it boosts all the way back up, and then you do it all over again. That's if you just want to get the battery back up to the 100% so you can have more power on the top band of going. So typically this car, though, with the electric front motors, it stays at about, just like regular use. You're not even messing with the car. You're just on a trip. You're just doing whatever. It's going to hover, keep itself charged to about 75 to 80%, like all the time. So it'll stay at the higher band of the charge on the small 1.9 kilowatt battery. And it's just the driving force behind what makes this car special. That's really it. You know, the all-wheel drive is the main selling point for what they're doing to making this the ultimate Grand Touring car for GM. It's a first of its kind, and I got to tell you, it is all that they say it is. I've been driving it for 1,000 miles now, and it is definitely just an all-around different experience than my 23 Stingray. Just the rear wheel drive, yeah, it's a different experience. So, and speaking about driving, that is another selling point for me when I experienced this car, because I had never driven the car. I just bought it, and it was sitting on the showroom floor, and I bought it. I just knew I wanted it. Just a quick pull here. That is fast. Oh, man. But the driving experience is just all there. It is planted to the ground. It has mag ride, and I have the Zur package, so I have the performance tires. So there are some people out there that I've learned in the forum that actually have the all weather. They're like, now I live in a climate where it snows and I'm still going to drive my car, and that's what GM made the car for. All weather. The driving experience, though, is one that's different than any other Corvette you've driven. It doesn't matter how fast it is, and that's just not the point of this car, really, like to keep comparing just the speed portion. It's the driving experience You can corner with this car. You can dig in deep. You will feel like if you're coming out of a turn, you ever come out of a turn and real hard and the back end kicks out on you? I don't think that's going to happen with this car. I've taken some pretty sharp turns in this car, and it is dialed in, and I am rolling. I mean, I'm moving out of this corner, and I could feel the car pulling me out of the corner. And that's when you'll see your battery slowly move down a little bit. You'll know when you're getting pulled from the front wheels more than the rear. You can look at your gauge and see the battery kind of dropping a little bit, but you can also feel it kind of, you're like, whoa, this is really, really the real deal. So I think the driving experience in comparison to other cars that I've driven, not just Corvettes, it's a whole dynamic. This is a race car underneath pretty much, sometimes track car, you know, it's all of the above. And I think this is the, as GM put it, the Grand Touring, the Grand Sport basically. You remember back in the day, the Grand Sport was the one that you got if you just couldn't get a Z06 or you just didn't want the Z06. You got the brakes, you got the body, everything. You just didn't have the same setup for performance. But this is different though. This has the same setup for performance because of the way it's set up. And GM know what they were doing, you know, by subtly calling this a Grand Sport. You know, I've seen some people in the forum saying, they're supposed to be making a Grand Sport. Well, that's the Grand Sport right there. The E-Ray that I'm pointing to in my garage over there, that's the Grand Sport. As of now, it is. I don't see a reason for them to come back with the option of Grand Sport when they can capitalize on the E-Ray and pretty much do software updates to make it faster. Do something with the battery, give you more. There's got to be a way, because I know, because Tesla does it already, that you can boost power out of your car by just paying for it. And I'm hoping that if Chevy were to say, hey, we'll give you extra 50 horsepower for $1,000, you know, just for the front end alone, I'm on it day one. I'm buying it day one. We can calibrate your car to where you can get extra 50 horsepower on the front, so you'll be up to 210 horsepower. Even though right now that car pulls a heck of a lot more than 160 on the front end. Yeah, it just makes the driving experience worlds better. And speaking on the driving experience in the electrified front end, the tech inside of this thing is, if you don't know, I've had a tech channel for about 20 years now. I think about 20 years I've been on YouTube on my tech channel though. And so I'm a tech enthusiast. So a car like this fits me great. I drive Teslas. I like muscle cars, but this is a muscle car with lots of tech inside. Quoting GM, they said this is the most complicated car they've ever, it requires the most. And that's probably why there's just not a lot of them right now. It'll pick up, but I'm sure, because right now I think the VINs are up to like 800 almost. So those of us with the lower end of the VINs, the 500 or less, there's some perks to that. And there's also those of us that have colors that have been discontinued. There's some perks that I'll get into that later, but just the tech inside of this thing. One question I get when I've been to all these shows is, how do you do stealth mode? What is stealth mode? Stealth mode, stealth mode, stealth mode. And there's also shuttle mode though. Shuttle mode is if you're moving it around your garage, your driveway, or just in a parking lot real quick. It's not for public roads. You're only allowed at 15 miles an hour, and you have to restart the car with shuttle mode. So shuttle mode is actually ideal if you're gonna really just be moving things around. Like if I needed to put the car over here and move this car out there, the shuttle mode is perfect for that. Or you're just cruising around a parking spot or a parking lot, and you're trying to just quickly, you got to run in and out. Oh, a spot came up. I get front parking anyway, but just to say I didn't, and a handicap spot popped open, and I'm way over here. I'll put it in shuttle mode and just drive over to that handicap spot instead of using stealth mode, because stealth mode, the motor will kick on if I don't feather the throttle enough. And so with shuttle mode, it's literally just moving the car from spot to spot. And I don't believe there's a limit on that. Just the battery will run down. That's pretty much it. But the tech inside of this car, GM did a phenomenal job, and they made sure that they did enough to where it wasn't like it's just not overwhelmingly tech, Because, the year has come where the time has come where, companies are being forced to electrify their vehicles, and they have other vehicles. They have EVs, full on EVs. But I like that they did the Corvette electrified with the tech for performance only. Like, this is strictly for performance. This isn't for driving around long distance. No. Okay. So I can go 4 miles possibly, drive just on the battery for about 3 to 4 miles. Yeah, that's cool. You actually can see some gas savings because I've driven around. They say, well, leave your house and, you don't have to disturb your neighbors. I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about just how far can I drive on stealth mode. It's not so much, I'm trying to shh my neighbors. Nah, I'm not thinking about it. I'm just thinking about, because they already know I'd always have a loud car out front anyway. So they're going to say, that's just John. But I'm not the only. I think it's one other person or so that keeps like muscle cars and stuff like that. They're really loud. But nonetheless, stealth mode is perfect. Not just for leaving your community. You literally could drive to the store, depending on how far you're going. I literally have driven to the store all the way in stealth mode. Within a 3 mile radius, there's plenty of places that are within a 3 mile radius to where you can use stealth mode and not use any fuel and save tons. You could save tons. And speaking of which, that is another reason why I would definitely recommend the E-Ray over the Z06. Okay, so you get and I'll move on to a slight thing about the Z06 in a second, but the fuel economy on the E-Ray is right on par with, it's the same rear motor. So you're getting, I average 22 miles to the gallon, I think, or something like that. Something like that. My best is 25, or I don't know what it was. I've got some really, the point is, this high performance car, I can always count on fuel economy to be phenomenal. Now, I'm not saying the Z06 gets poor fuel economy, but the E-Ray is just better because it has the LT2 and not the LT6, and it's rated for better fuel economy, and it gets better fuel economy. Most of the people I've spoken to with the Z06 say they're not getting that anything close to what GM says on the website, and they're babying it, and they're still only getting like 12 to 13. With the E-Ray, that's the E-Ray on its worst day, 15 miles to the gallon. I don't think I've seen 15 miles to the gallon yet. I think I've always seen at least 19 to 20 or above. So that is a huge plus for you to get an E-Ray. You get a performance vehicle like this caliber, and you get 20 plus miles to the gallon. 25 or more, depending on how you're driving. And my other Stingray, I got 29 at some point, which is just crazy. And some people have gotten 30 or above. But having said that, I mean, the fuel economy on the E-Ray is phenomenal. It's like daily driving a regular car, but you're just in a sports car. And so another thing I want to, before I slow it down here and move on and get out of here, the styling of this car is Z06. Straight up. You get the wide body, just like it's the Z06's body. Only thing they did was take the rear end and keep it Stingray on the pipe, on the exhaust. That's it. This is a Z06 body through and through, which means it's 3.5 inches wider than the Stingray, and it feels that way. This is a wider car. I know I've put both cars in the garage, and the wide body on this car isn't really like ridiculous or anything like that. It's just really, really nice. That is one of the highest selling points there might be for a lot of people. Like some people say, well, I bought my Z06 for the sound. I think that's a silly reason to buy the Z06. I would buy the Z06 for the performance, the looks. Everybody has their reasoning for why they bought a car, but I just think buying a car alone just for the sound is kind of strange. But the Z06 styling is all there, folks. If you like the Z06, you are going to love the E-Ray because it looks exactly the same. And even to the rear, some people still don't know that it's not a Z06. They'll walk around the entire car, and then they still think it's a Z06, and they look down like, what? Oh, that's that new E-Ray. That is exactly how it goes every single time that I'm somewhere and people love the Z06 or they love Corvettes. They see the car, and they instantly think that it's a Z06. And that's just because of the front end and the wide body stance of it and the way it looks. And then they realize Nope, that is that new E-Ray. And that's gonna be the conversation probably for the next 12 months or more. You're gonna be amazed by it, I think, especially if you've had a Corvette before. This one is totally different in every aspect of the word. I personally kept mine under 4,000 RPM for the first 500 miles. That has been the toughest part of owning this car, is keeping it under 4,000, excuse me, 4,000 RPM. Excuse me, folks. Keeping the car under 4,000 RPM for the first 500 miles was horrendous for me because I didn't get too many opportunities to drive it. I drove it long distance. The first time I bought the car, I drove an hour to get it. So that was a nice trip. And then I took it out of town twice right afterwards, but I still was only at like 300 something miles. I was like, oh my God, it's taking forever. So this is probably why I have 1,000 miles in a month and a half on my car, because once I passed 500 miles, I was able to actually punch it a little bit. And I remember I was out of town with my youngest daughter. I picked her up and we were hanging out. And I remember I had her record. She actually recorded that initial video. There it is. Woo! It's just it is a crazy thing to behold and experience. I'm telling you, folks, it is not like any other experience in a sports car that I've experienced. Now you're gonna say, well, Jay, there's gotta be some reasons why you would tell a person not to buy the E-Ray. And there is. The first thing is it has the LT2 on the back, which is basically a Stingray, and the Stingray is fast. I've gone over this in another video. If you have the active exhaust on your Stingray, you have 495 horsepower and 470 foot-pounds of torque, folks. You got a monster of a car. You can remove your target top or you can get a convertible. I like the target top because I like to see the engine. You get the same thing I get. That is a huge plus, and you save $35,000 right off the rip. So pricing on the E-Ray is not gonna be for everyone. The car starts at mine started at 110 because it's a 2LZ. But it starts at like 106 or something like that, 105 after the destination charge, 106 or so. And you start to add options on that's with the 1LZ. But the 2LZ, I think mine started at 110. So that alone is going to, some people are gonna be like, I'm not paying that much for a car. But here's the problem I have with Stingray owners saying that. Stingray owners, you can hate all you want to about what I'm going to say, but it's true. There are so many Stingray owners that paid $100,000 for that Stingray. And they said it was the best thing ever. Oh, it's a 3LT, it's a convertible, blah, blah, blah. You paid $100,000 for that car. Oh, you got the dipped interior, you got this, but you still paid $100,000 for that car. So the thought of listening to some Stingray owners say E-Ray owners spent too much money or they wasted money is mind-boggling to me. It's ludicrous. There are so many E-Rays, even if Stingrays, even if they're not at $100,000, there are so many people that bought a 3LZ and they paid close to $100,000. And then a lot of these guys paid a markup of $20,000 to $50,000 on those Stingrays. So even my own 1LT Stingray, or 1LT Stingray that I had, my 23, I paid $72,000 out the door, and that was with a discount on that price. If I wouldn't have gotten any kind of discounts on the price or anything like that, I would have paid them. I would have been at $100,000 for a 1LT. They were selling the 1LTs for $100,000 at one point, and people bought them, and they lost money because my E-Ray came to $69,000 before taxes, I think it was. This car was $122,000 before taxes. So, but that was a 1LT versus a 2LZ. So I laugh and chuckle at C8 owners who twin turbocharge their car, not in a derogatory demeanor, but they twin turbocharge their car, they supercharge their car. They're already way above the price of my car in labor and maintenance and parts. And they're telling me that I shouldn't have gotten the E-Ray. I could have just got twin turbo to super, no. That doesn't make any sense when I can just buy a better looking car, technically, in my opinion, because it's the body of the Z06. So I think the Z06 looks better than the Stingray, the styling. And then I got the performance at any given time, and I still get the beautiful fuel economy. The E-Ray is a smart purchase for all you Stingray owners out there who are saying, that's $35,000 to $40,000 more. But in turn, there's not a lot of people buying the 1LTs. And I know it. I was one of the few people that bought a 1LT, and I told you guys why it was the best option out there. And a lot of people say, you know what, you're right. I was going to get this and I was going to get that. But yeah, but there's not just me. Tons of people have a 1LT. It's more than enough because you get the styling. And all I did was add on the front splitter and rear spoiler and change the color. And it is beautiful. So yeah, you can save some money by getting a 1LT Stingray in comparison to the E-Ray. But once you go to 2LT and 3LT, you're right there. You're knocking on a $15,000 to $20,000 difference if you stay in that 1LT E-Ray, period. Even the 1L or 1LZ Z06s can be had for just a little bit more than a Stingray 3LT. It's a matter of how you're going to spend your money. But I say the E-Ray is perfectly set in the middle here. It costs less than the Z06 and in all levels, and it costs more than the Stingray, but this is a much better purchase than the Stingray in my opinion. Even if I would have gotten a 1LZ, because that's what I originally optioned mine as, a 1LZ, my build, but I ended up getting this one ahead of time, so I gave up my allocation recently. The pricing on there is not for everybody. It is not. It is over $100,000 to start with. But if you're in that arena, folks, I'm not saying you're not thinking about price, but you're not so much worried. That's not your main focus. Because some people have I've spoken to people. I put a poll up in the forum, say, did you finance your E-Ray, or did you pay half off, or did you pay it all off? And a lot of people were like me. They didn't want those crazy interest rates. And you know that when you get to a certain point in your car game, you can't finance some of this stuff. You're going to get robbed with interest. If I would have financed this car $122,000, it came to $130,000 after taxes or so, like right above 130. The interest rate would have been at least 7%. I spoke to the guy. He said, man, you got excellent credit, but you're going to have to shop around and go to a credit union and do something. And most of them are not going to want to, they're going to want to make some money off of this deal. So they're not going to give you the zeros and the threes and the twos. It's possible, but you got to do some serious shopping. I was like, I don't have time for this, man. I'm scared, But most people in that poll said they paid cash for it. And some of them cost way more than mine. Like they have convertibles, they have 3LZs. So that is an issue for a lot of people. Let's just call it like it is. The money. Some people would love to have the E-Ray, but you just don't want to spend, or you can't afford to spend $100,000 on a car that you're only going to use on certain days. You just don't have it. And that's just respectfully. That's not like a put down or anything. That's what the reality is. Because a lot of you guys say, man, that's out of my budget. And it's good you're being honest with yourself. Don't live outside your means to where you're going broke behind just trying to look good. It's just not a good look at all. But the price is the main thing I would say that might stop some Stingray owners, most Stingray owners, because a lot of Stingray owners who have the 3LTs and the 2LTs, their cars are close to 100,000, if not more. Just look for yourself, because they add the Z51 package, they add the front lift, they do all these things, and their car ends up being the same price as a 1LT E-Ray. Now, whether you can get a 1LT E-Ray or not right now, that's a whole nother question. But hey, it is what it is. I like the E-Ray, and I wanted to talk about it today for you guys to let you know it is all that you hear about. If I could take all of you guys for a ride, like set up a track day or just a ride along day, I would do it, man. Because I want everyone to be able to experience this car, especially Stingray owners that are really intrigued by this car. Z06 owners are intrigued too, but they just won't allow themselves to cut loose and say it. I've met plenty of Z06 owners in person and online that say, man, I would love to have an E-Ray, but I already got a Z06. I really love the sound. I love the power. So it's good enough for me. I won't be switching. Plenty of them. And in person, they are really intrigued by it. So the fact of the matter is, it is the fastest Corvette stock for stock that GM offers. And it's just, the all-wheel drive is like the main selling point for me. If you're going to ask me the top 3 reasons why I like this car, it's going to be the all-wheel drive, the styling, and probably third would be the technology, the way it's put together. So I like the all-wheel drive for sure. The styling is just so beautiful because I love the way the Z06 looks. And then the tech inside this car is so intriguing. The E-Ray screen, it's just everything about the car, the way it sounds when you drive it. You can hear the V8, but you can really hear the motors on the front wind up when you get going. It is a glorious thing. Anyway, I'm gonna cut here. Hope you guys enjoyed a long discussion about the E-Ray. Some reasons why I think it's important to consider it. So I'll see you in the next video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Take care.